that's nice. It's a relief. It is. So if you have something that you want to stand up and say something worthwhile, that I'm looking forward to Alaska people to update us. But anyway, so long story short, everybody knows Katelyn, and I don't know what she's going to say or what the plan is. And so Katelyn, please.
Thank you for trusting me so much.
Yeah. Last minute too.
Yeah.
I didn't even see what you were going to do anyway.
Well, hello, good morning, everybody. For those, I'm pretty sure everybody at least knows who I am. I don't know if everybody knows what I do, but I'll kind of give you an overview of what I'm doing. So I live in the Dominican Republic in a town called San Juan de la Maguana, which is like over an hour away from the Haitian border, so like the west end of the Dominican Republic in the Caribbean. So no, I do not live near the beach. I mean, it's a lot closer than now. So I live like 2 hours from the beach, but it's not something that I get to see. I live up in the mountains, and it's a very area. So I'll talk about a little bit more about what life looks like there in just a little bit, but I kind of wanted to just let you guys know what it is that I'm doing. So I work for a missions organization called Solid Rock International that's been there for over 30 years. And so I am the guest house host. We host about 40 teams a year of short-term mission teams. So the majority of our teams are medical teams. So we just built a clinic that has been like 15 years in the making. So we have this new clinic that is state-of-the-art, really nice, one of the best in the country. And so it used to be that, with all the motorcycle accidents or car accidents, people in emergency situations would have to pack up and drive 3 hours to the capital to get care. But with our new clinic, they have emergency services right there that are available to them. And so it's really a game changer for this community. So we have surgeons that will come down and do specialized surgeries at little to no cost for the people who really can't afford it. We have doctors and nurses that will come down and do kind of like education and training for the doctors and nurses there, because they're, unlike in the States, they don't have to do continued education. There's no requirement. They, like, once they get their license, they have their license forever unless they have some sort of like malpractice. So they don't have any continued education unless they seek it out for themselves. So we partner with doctors and nurses who will come down and do this continued education for them if they want it. Some people don't want it, and so obviously we can't force them to participate, but it's available to them through our partnership with them. We also have doctors and nurses who come down and do mobile medical clinics in the border towns where like the illegal Haitians can't get medical care. So we're doing that, and that's the majority of what we do. We also have like youth groups who come down and do construction projects and Vacation Bible School during the summer. So with our construction projects, they normally go to one of our 5 partner schools in the area. Well, we have 2 in the area, 2 that are kind of farther away, and then 1 in the capital. So these partner schools we didn't like found the school, but we did, we do a lot of partnership, as in like, looking for sponsorships for these students to have a Christ-centered education and a good education. So public school system there, it's not necessarily bad in and of itself. The teachers themselves are good and well educated. However, there's a lot of conflict with the teachers in the government, kind of like here, except here we aren't allowed to have teachers unions in the state of North Carolina. So like we can't really protest our pay. I used to be a teacher, so we couldn't really protest our pay or anything like that. However, in the Dominican, it seems like at least once a month they have 1 week where they're out of school because teachers are striking. So the lack of consistency in the public education system is something that's a huge deal, and the ones who are really suffering for it are the students. And I don't know if anybody has ever been to an impoverished country here, but really the only way out of poverty is education. It's not giving people money. It's not giving people clothes or gifts or anything of that sort, because when they don't have an education, the financial literacy piece is just not there. So they don't really understand what to do with that money. And a lot of the poverty mindset is, oh, if somebody gives me $20 today, then I need to spend it all today because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So they don't have that, just like the basic financial literacy that I feel like we have in the U.S. Even more impoverished students here in the U.S. have at least a little bit of knowledge of kind of saving their money and not spending it, or at least have access to that knowledge. So we work with those partner schools. Anytime we have construction teams, they're most likely working at some of our partner schools or some churches that we've partnered with in the community. So that's kind of what we do as a whole. I personally, I'm the guest house host, so I run the guest house where all the American short-term mission teams come down and stay for the week. So I basically just make sure all of the maintenance on the guest house is done, everything is all in order, that they have their food that they need for the week. I go grocery shopping, I help prepare the meals, I serve the meals, doing announcements for the different activities that we do throughout the week so that they can see a little bit more of our community and the culture that we live in. And I also am in charge of all the in-country finances of the organization. So I do all of the record keeping, all of the receipt inputting, making sure we have what we need, communicating with our executive director here in the States, and making sure that we have the money to do all of the different things that we need to do to keep it running on the ground. Other than that, so our executive directors, or our old ones, they just stepped down. They had originally planned to only be the executive directors for about 3 or 4 years, and then they got into the project of building the new clinic, and they were our directors for 13 years. So they decided, okay, it's time, we're in a good place, the clinic's built, and it's time for us to step away and move on. So our in-country directors got that position, so they just transitioned back to the States, and so I'm taking over some of their responsibilities that they had while they were in the country, like running social media or doing the student sponsorship updates at each school. So here in the fall, I'll actually be going to each school, partnering with the all of the administration of each school, making sure we have what we need to get it to our families who sponsor students and everything like that, updating all the information, making sure that we have everything that we need to keep that ministry running. And then, let's see, I'm trying to think what else I'll be doing. Those are two of the biggest things that will transition to me, and then other things as needed. It's a lot of, whenever people ask me what I do, I'm like, it's a lot of really small things, but they all add up. So it's hard to explain in detail what all I do, because it sometimes looks different every single day. But it's really a rewarding job. In a lot of ways, it's exhausting. My hours are very weird. When we have teams, I'm up at 5:30 in the kitchen by 5:45, making breakfast, serving the meal, and then we have our morning devotions. And at about 9 o'clock, I'm done cleaning up for breakfast. Then I have until about 2 in the afternoon to run errands, make sure the vehicles are, have all their maintenance done. If I need to run to the bank or the clinic or do whatever, I have that time to do it. And then I work for dinner. I start prepping at around 3, and then I work till about 8 o'clock most nights. So the hours are very weird, and it's hard to kind of have a life when we have consecutive teams, but we've kind of figured it out. But it is exhausting a lot of days physically, but there's a lot of reward to it, just in the conversations that are had, especially with our group members that come down. And when I went for the first time, I went with a team of like-minded believers who just happened to be in the medical field. And it was a life-changing experience for me. However, that's not the case for every team that we host. We have a lot of teams who are not affiliated with the church, don't go to church, maybe don't believe in God. We have a few Mormon teams that come down, and at first I was like, my mentality was like, why are we letting them come here? This is a Christian organization. But then I just really felt called to really lean into that, because yes, there is ministry in encouraging like-minded believers, but there's also ministry in sharing how the Lord has transformed our lives with people who don't think like us and don't walk like us and don't talk like us. And so that has probably been one of the most challenging things is like, okay, Americans, yes, they're my culture, but at the same time, I feel like it's a lot easier to share the gospel where people are so like explicitly in need. It's so much easier to just go and say like, oh, like, Jesus loves you and you just got to trust in him and and all the things that we say for people who maybe don't have running water or maybe don't have electricity or don't have money or don't have jobs or, things like that. But when you get people in your same culture who identify a lot with, everything that you've come up to know, but don't believe. And it's like, sometimes that's really hard to talk about Jesus to those people because they're so set in their ways, and it's like they're living in a first world country. Like, what do they need saving from? If they don't realize it, then it's hard to have that conversation. But I've kind of really like leaned into that here lately, and so that's kind of where I feel called to be in that respect, because at first I was like, there's just so many things that I'm doing. Like there's the record keeping and there's, doing all the maintenance and all this stuff. And at first I was like, where is the ministry in this? Like, I came down here for ministry, like where is it? And so whenever I kind of like, the Lord just enlightened my heart to that, conversations started flowing a little bit better, and just getting to know other people and how they view the world, and just sharing with them how you view the world and why, and because we've been transformed by the living and active Word of God. And so a lot of times it's hard for people to understand, especially like I said, especially when you're like, I don't really need saving, like I'm good, I have my house, I have my car, like I do whatever I want, I have freedom. It's kind of hard to do that, but it is, I do believe, a very transformative experience for both of us to just like be able to have those conversations. So that's kind of what I do. That's, I guess, the long version. There is no short version to it. But I did want to talk a little bit about what life is like there. So life is very slow there. The priorities are a lot different. It's a lot more community oriented, a lot more just I'll get to it when I get to it kind of thing. It's no rush for anything. And my dad makes fun of me all the time. He says, if I have to be somewhere at 10 o'clock and it's 9:55 and I have 20 minutes to drive there, I still have 5 minutes to keep getting ready. And I said, no, Dad, it's not really that. It's just my time management skills are terrible. But in the Dominican, like the church that I go to starts at 10. I leave my house at 10. And then I get there and I'm still earlier than everybody else.
Is that called island time?
Yes, it is island time for sure. It's very nice. But everything's just kind of go with the flow. There's no you don't see people, standing in lines getting mad because something's taken forever, because everything takes forever. So patience has definitely grown a lot in me. And so whenever I go to stores and stuff here, I don't have that tendency anymore really to like huff and puff while I'm in line because everything's so long and they're taking forever. It's just like, oh, I'm here, okay. And you go on. And so it's really, I really truly love life there because of those priorities. And also, here in the States, we have just this constant productivity mentality. It's like you have to be productive 24/7, and a lot of our worth, I feel like, whether it's conscious or subconscious, a lot of our worth is tied into our productivity. Whereas they're more focused on relationships and just sitting and being. And sometimes we get tickled at when we drive down the road. You see all these people outside, and it's like the middle of the day on a Tuesday, and it's like, where do you work? What do you do for a living? Like, why are you sitting out here? But it's also so beautiful because they're so just focused on being good neighbors to each other. And I can, people always ask me, do you feel safe? Do you feel safe? Like, I'm so close to Haiti. Like, all the things that are happening in Haiti, like, how is that affecting you? I will say I feel safer in my city than I do here, and the stuff that's happening in Haiti has had no effect on where I live. So yeah, I feel super safe. I can go to strangers' houses and just yell at them, and because everything's gated, so there's not like a door to knock on. But you just go to people's houses and you yell at them, and you're like, "Hey, come out here! Can I come in? Like, I need help with this, or I need help with that." And they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, come on in. Do you want coffee? Do you want something to eat?" And I usually say yes, because I don't ever turn down a meal because they're usually very, very good. But it's just so hospitable there. And it's just so nice to be able to just relax and, just be sometimes, because that's something that I felt like I never could do here is just be for a little bit. And so it's been really good to get into that lifestyle and just be thankful for all the good things that you see, and just be able to take it all in. I don't want to paint this like beautiful picture and say that there's nothing wrong there, because there is a lot of things wrong. Like, obviously it's a developing country. There's still things that need to be developed. So it is hard at times, even though I speak Spanish and I've spent a lot of time in the Dominican before moving down there, and I know a lot about the culture. There's still a lot of like cultural things that you learn as you go. You're never going to know it all, but it can also feel somewhat isolating to be there and not be surrounded by people who look like you or think like you all the time, who, like your family, your friends, the people that you're closest with, and also not be like fully in a culture that's not your own. Even though I love it and it's a beautiful culture, and I've taken a lot of things from it and applied it to my life, you're still in this kind of like in between, and so it's like you're away from friends and family, you're away from like the people who bring you the most comfort, and even though you're around good people that you love, it's still like, I've only been there for 9 months, so it's still not, the people that that you call when you're lonely and crying, or things like that. And so it's still a hard like in between, and can definitely also feel very isolating when so much life is happening back home that you're not a part of. So I think that's probably been one of the biggest struggles, is seeing everything that's happening with like my friends or my family, my friends having babies, or they're turning 1 and they're having like big milestones that you're missing, or people in like my family and friends are like health declining, and different things like that has been extremely difficult too. So I don't want to like paint a picture of sunshine and rainbows, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but there is a lot of beauty in both of those things, even though it can be hard a lot of days. So let's see, I think I just deleted my note. Oh, no, there it is. I did want to talk a little bit about Christianity there. I know I've talked about it a little bit in other times that I've talked to you guys. So the idea of Christianity there is a lot more, I guess, conservative and strict than we may see it here. I've been told that I don't look like a Christian because my knees are showing like this. So, like, I wear this to my church, but like people out in the rural communities, they're like, "Oh, that's too much skin showing, like you're not a Christian." And I was like, "Okay, thank you for your opinion." But they are very strict on things that you do and things that you do, you don't do, what you wear, and all this stuff. And on one hand, I really think that it's beautiful that, if you are Christian there, it's very obvious. However, it comes from more of like a legalistic standpoint than a, like, I just want to please the Lord kind of standpoint. It's more like when you ask, "Oh, like, let's go do this." "Oh, no, Christians don't do that." And it's like, okay, well, why don't Christians do that? "Oh, because we just don't. They'll judge us for it." And it's like, okay, so it's more out of like fear of man than fear of God in a lot of ways, and so that does make me sad. But thankfully, there are churches who, like mine, who are preaching the true word of God and like not saying like you have to be this or you have to do this in order to gain favor with God. It's the Lord has already given you favor through Jesus, and our acts pour out of our love for him, not to gain favor with him, if that makes sense. So there are a lot of churches who are trying to change that mindset. And there's also in the rural communities a lot of Catholicism mixed with African voodoo. So they all believe that they're Christian and that they're saved, but they're praying to Mary or praying to different saints and that come from the voodoo side of things, or they do like animal sacrifices and things like that. So it's very hard to get them out of their mentality and knowing that they don't have to do all that, like that's been done for them through Jesus. And a lot of them, you'll ask them more in-depth questions about what they believe, and you realize they have no idea. It's more of a cultural thing than an actual religion. So they're like, oh, I don't know, like it's just what my mom did. A lot of them wear red bracelets, and they, like, that signifies that, or it's like a symbol of protection from bad spirits, and that comes from the African voodoo side of things. And so, you know, they'll say that they're Christian, and then they'll say, okay, then cut that off because you don't, that bracelet can't give you protection. And they're like, no, like I got to keep this on because I don't want anything bad to happen to me or my family. And so the mentality is a lot different. And to us, it's like, you know, this just sounds crazy, but at the same time, this is all that they've ever known. They've never known anything different. So Christianity there is definitely a lot different in a lot of ways. However, there have been a lot of missionaries come down and you know, try to teach them and guide them on the right path. But you know, we just got to keep praying for open hearts for them to actually receive it and believe it. They also are very strict with, you know, like if they don't attend church on a regular basis. And yes, I know that we want people to attend church on a regular basis, but some people believe like all the things, like, you know, of who God is, what Jesus did, who Jesus is, and what that means for us. But if they don't go to church, then they'll tell you they're not Christian. And so again, that's part of like the legalistic mindset that they have. And so it's just sometimes a really sad situation when you're talking to people. And when I go out with our pastor sometimes and he's preaching the gospel from house to house, he'll say, all right, like, do you believe that, you know, Jesus is God and he came to die for your sins and that you are washed clean through his blood? And they'll say, yes, I do, like, praise the Lord, all this stuff. And then he'll ask him, well, have you given your heart to Christ? And they'll be like, oh no, when are you going to do that? Not today, maybe some other day. And so he always has this example. He's so funny. He doesn't speak English. He only speaks Spanish and Haitian Creole, but he is very animated, and he has this one like scenario that he presents to him or to all the people. And a lot of times in these poor areas, they're in big flood zones, so they really understand what flooding is and like how devastating it can be. And so he'll present them with this idea like, all right, so if a hurricane comes and this whole place floods and you're out there and you don't know how to swim, because most Dominicans don't know how to swim unless they grew up near a creek or a river or a body of water, and you're out there drowning and a helicopter comes by and they say, I have a life jacket, like, here you go, and tosses it to them. Are you going to say, no, like, I don't want that today, let me think about it, come back later? And they're like, no, of course I'm going to grab the life jacket. And he's like, this is your life jacket. This is the only life jacket you have, because if you are not in Christ, then you are drowning in your sin. And you may not realize it, but you are drowning. And so why wouldn't you take this life-saving, you know, vest or raft or whatever the case may be? Why are you not taking this to save yourself? Oh, I'll think about it later. I'll think about it. It's always, I'll think about it. I'll do it later. And so it's funny because they all have the same mentality, a lot of them out in the countrysides. So that's a very hard thing to like hear over and over again. It's like, oh, I'll think about it later. I'll think about it. I'll decide later, kind of thing. So just be praying for open hearts of the people that we're serving and trying to love, because they have a very closed mentality culturally. They don't a lot of times know what they believe for themselves, and so it's a very hard a hard conversation to have when it's the same thing over and over again. Lastly, I just want to thank you guys for all your prayers and support, because I truly could not do what I do if I didn't have your prayers and your encouragement, because it is hard. And this did not come from Pastor Lagoutine. Like he said, he had no idea what I was going to say today. But full-time ministry is so hard. You're constantly pouring out in other people. You're constantly giving, and it's really hard to be poured into enough for it to like balance out how much you're pouring out. So pray for your pastors, pray for your elders, pray for anybody who is in full-time ministry, and just other believers, because we are all called to be in full-time ministry, whether that's the title that you have or not. Like, we're all called to, have our lives as our ministries, and it is hard when you're constantly pouring out and can't, really fill back up as fast as you're pouring out. So I would just encourage you guys to just look at how you can serve the people beside you, because that is truly one of the most profound things to me, with people in the DR, when even if they just invite me over for dinner, that to me is one of the greatest acts of kindness that people can do, is, like making sure, or just saying, you don't have to cook tonight, just come to my house, or, different things like that. Just serve each other, look for ways to serve each other here in the church, here in the community, and things like that, because it is hard, and we do all have a job to do when it comes to our faiths, because our faith is not meant for us alone. Our faith is meant for the people around us, everybody that's put in your life. It's meant for you to encourage other people, be encouraged by other people. And those are some ways that, we can do it. So just look for ways. It may not have to be like, hey, I made you dinner. It can be hey, you just had surgery. Let me come do your laundry, or let me come clean your house, or do whatever you need done around your house. It doesn't have to be all of these big acts, that we tend to, get our heads wrapped around. It doesn't have to be a big project. It can be these small acts of kindness to just serve the people around you. So just keep that in mind as you guys are praying, for the church and for our pastors and for our community and all of that stuff. Just look for ways to be the hands and feet to the people around you, whether they know Jesus or not. And then lastly, I would just say, I love to hear from you guys. So when you guys keep in touch, or when people message me on Facebook, it may take me a little bit to get to it, but I do get to it, and I love to stay in contact with you guys, because it does help me feel connected to home whenever, life is happening and I'm away for it. But when people keep me updated, it's really nice to hear from people back home. So don't hesitate to reach out if you would like to. Probably Facebook Messenger is the easiest for me, for you to contact me, because when I'm in the Dominican, I have a Dominican phone plan. So I can't really do international texts or stuff. So that's probably the easiest thing that you guys can contact me on. And then lastly, I do have a few prayer requests. I don't know if you guys follow my blog each month. I do post a blog on our website. It's solidrockinternational.org. I believe it's in the bulletin. I think it is. Okay, so you can go to that if you just want to see my updates, things that I'm learning, and things that I'm doing. So that's in there. But just a few prayer requests. Like I said, I really believe that my purpose there is for the American team members that come down and don't know the Lord. And so just praying for boldness and the wisdom to speak life and truth into them, and receptive hearts for them to have those conversations, and opportunities to just to share Jesus, even if it's, even if it's just smiling as I do my daily duties, like people can sense the joy. So just continuing to have joy in what I do, regardless of the situations around me, and just praying for me to be poured into while I'm there, because it is hard. So those are my prayer requests for right now. Does anybody have any questions? I know we've got a little bit of time. Yes.
Well, first I want to say we're so proud of the way you're living your life, and we appreciate what you're doing. Do they ask you why you're there? Like, why are you doing what you're doing?
Sometimes, but because this organization has been there for so long, it had everybody knows it. Everybody in that community knows it. So I feel like a lot of my friends there outside of the organization don't really understand what it is that I do, but they know that American doctors are constantly in and out, so they think that I'm a doctor, and I have to be like, no, I am not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional. So sometimes they do, sometimes, they don't. I think the biggest comment that I get is, they're like, all of us are trying to get to the U.S. to have a better life, and you gave up your life in the U.S. to come here. And I always tell them, like, don't think that the grass is always greener on the other side, because although you have more opportunities and more resources in the States, the culture and the community and all the things that are such that I personally value so much about their culture is just not here. So yes, ma'am.
What months of the year do teams come? Do they come any month?
All year, yeah. So the majority of our surgical teams come from January to March. Then we'll have like some of the mobile medical clinics mixed in there. Mobile medical clinics will come throughout the year, some in the summer, some in the fall, some in the spring. Summer is the majority is vacation Bible school and construction, because that's when students are out of school, and so that's when the students can come. And then we pick back up with surgeries and mobile medical clinics in the fall when the students aren't here.
And how many people do you host at one time usually?
It can vary. We can have groups as small as 10, and we can host up to about 45 at once. So, yeah.
You have 45, you're not cooking for 45, are you?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, we are. But I'm not by myself in the kitchen. So we have three Dominican ladies who cook and clean and do all that. So I just kind of help them. And one of them, she's been working for Solid Rock for 25 years. So she doesn't even have to think. She knows exactly how much to put in the pot, and we go from there. But a lot of people ask for the recipes of a lot of our stuff, and which I would love to give them, but I tell them Dominicans don't have recipes. I can tell you a list of ingredients, but I can't tell you quantities, what to do with it, or anything like that. They just throw it in, and it comes out amazing.
How many mission members do you have with you?
So we have full-time we have 3 full-time Americans there. So there's me, there's the medical coordinator, and then the ministry support coordinator. We did have our in-country directors, but they just moved back to the States. So they hired a Dominican to replace them. And he has been working for our organization for, I think, about 10 years. So he worked as a translator, and then he has done our public health paperwork for our medical teams that come in. So he's seen like kind of all sides of the ministry. So he's there with us, and I'm really excited. So this transition is like currently happening. Our in-country directors just flew back to the States on Friday. So it's like all in the works right now. So I'm very excited to see how Hector really supports us, because he can give us more insight on Dominican culture and doing our different ministries and things like that. So right now there's just 3 Americans.
When do you go back?
I go back at the end of this month, or in the end of next month, July 29th. So I wasn't supposed to be here this long, but I had originally, before this job was an opportunity, I had committed to doing an educational tour in Spain from when I was teaching. So I did that like last week, and then I have Camp Lynn Haven at the end of July. So those were 2 big things that I had committed to. And so I told them before I took the job, I was like, listen, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm not missing either of those things. So they said that's okay. And so we do have teams right now, but the other 2 girls are covering it, and our Dominican staff are helping them. So yeah.
Are drugs an issue?
I would say alcohol is more of an issue than drugs are. However, I mean, drugs are an issue, but we see more alcoholism than drug abuse, at least in my area. I don't really know any statistics on that. I know that we have some friends who teach like high school and stuff, and they're having a lot of issues with vaping. So one of the nurses that works with us, she and I went to the classroom and like had a whole presentation of like the dangers of vaping and things like that. But as far as other things, I don't know. I personally haven't seen it, but I'm not running in those circles, so I probably wouldn't see it. Mm-hmm.
The teams go out in the villages, the pastor goes as well, like the medical care. The medical care and the spiritual sharing is kind of together, right?
Yeah, it is. So in any ministry that we do, our pastor is there, and whether it's surgery, he'll sit and like pray with the families before surgery. He'll, talk about the gospel and things like that before they go into surgery. With our mobile medical clinics, he'll go from house to house and invite people to our mobile medical clinic and share the gospel there. And then he and I have actually, the coolest thing I guess that we've done is a lady called him and said, hey, my daughter's boyfriend just got back from Texas, and we want you to come pray with him. Well, it turns out he had just come back from the World Series. He plays for the Texas Rangers. So, so we went to his house and like prayed with him. So we do things like out in the community when we don't have teams, but we also, any teams, any ministry that we're doing, there is always, the gospel is always presented in whatever we do, so.
You know you speak a lot of Spanish.
I do, yes.
Is it hard to transition to that and back to English?
Not really, no. There's certain words or phrases that I use a lot in Spanish and like never use in English. So sometimes like when I'm speaking in English and that comes up, I can't think of it in English because I use it so much in Spanish. But other than that, not really. Like if I like go out with a team and I'm like helping translate all day, then my brain gets really tired, but other than that, it's fine. And I'm also trying to learn Haitian Creole now, so because there's a lot of people in my community that speak it, so it's not going very quickly, but I'm trying.
The VBS teams that go out, do you have a curriculum that you send with them to go?
Yeah, so I actually help create the curriculum. It's me, our pastor, our educational coordinator, who is one of our full-time Dominican staff, and our director, our new director, which is Hector, the other Dominican that they just hired full-time. So we get together, we plan out the VBS curriculum. It's not as extensive as VBS would be here because it's not something that they're used to. And all the kids, like they will consistently have over 200 kids. And it's not something that these kids are very used to, so they don't really understand, kind of what's going on. So we usually do like a little skit. So our VBS curriculum for this year, we're only doing, it's 2 days at one site per week and then 2 days at another site, so it's only 2 days of curriculum. So our first one is the fruit of the Spirit, and the other one is the armor of God. We've done like the story of Esther in the past. We've done David and Goliath and all that stuff, but it's very, very simplified.
Do the people understand those stories? Are they familiar with those stories?
Yeah. So a lot of these kids are regularly attending church, but then there's other kids out in the community that will attend. But our pastor does a really good job of breaking it down into kids' terms and just really explaining it in a way that they can understand. And they also do like skits and songs and games. So it's they're I would say it probably isn't as effective as like VBS that we do here, but there's really not a way to make it as effective, as in-depth, I guess. Effective isn't the word, as in-depth as we have here. So.
What's the size of the city you're in?
So the city that I'm in is the capital of the province that I'm in. It's still not huge. I would say it's smaller than Hickory, and it's still a very like rural town. So I don't know what the population is. I do know that the Dominican as a whole is about half of like the landmass size of North Carolina, but they have almost twice as many inhabitants in the whole country as North Carolina does. So it's very populated. There's a lot of people. So.
Is your pastor down there permanently?
Yes. So he
Permanently?
Yes. So he is Dominican. He was born to, his parents were Haitian, but they came to the Dominican, and he was born in the Dominican. So he has Dominican citizenship, speaks English, or not English, Spanish and Haitian Creole, and he is a pastor of a church down there too. So yeah, he's permanent. Yep, and he has worked for Solid Rock for, I think, 14 or 15 years.
What denomination would he be? Or is
He's Baptist. And then the church that I go to is Mennonite, but it's not like Mennonite like you'd think of it. Like I said, I wear this to church and nobody judges me for it. So yeah. Yeah. Any other questions, comments?
Well, it says in the bulletin you're committed to March 2025.
Yes.
Do you think, is there a chance you stay longer? Or?
Yes, there is a chance.
Yeah, it sounds like you really love it.
A high chance, yeah. So yeah, I really love life there. And so I'm just kind of open to wherever the Lord leads me. If He leads me back home, I guess I'll do it. But I would love to stay there for as long as possible, yeah.
Do you ever get to go out with any of the teams?
I do, yeah. So I usually go out with our mobile medical clinic teams. To me, the surgical teams are kind of boring, so I don't really do a whole lot with them. But the mobile medical clinic teams are like one of my favorite things. So I'll sometimes go out with them and go out with the pastor and help translate if any Americans like go on home visits with him. Even if they don't, like I'll still go out with him because that's either that or I'll translate in triage when we're like checking patients in and stuff. So yeah, but I don't do it super often because I honestly get very tired so with the hours that I work. So I might do it one time in a month. But I do, there's a girl, I don't know, are you in my like Facebook group? I don't know. Okay, well you guys can join my Facebook group. I think it's called Katelyn's DR Adventure or something like that. And so anyway, there's a girl that like I go see out in one of the border towns who has a very sad story. She is 29 years old, has 4 kids between the ages of 4 and 12. The dad is not in the picture, and she has no family. Like her mom died about 2 years ago, and that was the last family that she had. And so she has really struggled with depression and thoughts of suicide and things like that. And she has no job, and it's out there, you know, it really, that's one thing that really frustrates me when I come back to the States is seeing all these people who have availability, like there are jobs available and they don't get them, whereas like there are no jobs available. So if you don't have a certain level of education, there's no jobs really available, especially in the border towns. And so she doesn't have a job. We don't know how she gets her food. We have our suspicions, but there's nothing like confirmed in that. And so whenever we don't have teams, I try to go visit her as much as possible. The pastor and I both go and we'll visit with her and stay with her for a little bit. We have taken her food, but that's not something that we generally try to do because for multiple reasons. Number one, we want people to take responsibility for their own well-being and things like that. but also we don't want to set a precedent that every time they see an American that they're gonna get something, which that's another thing that we're battling, because so many people have come down, even with our organization, who don't really understand what it means to just like give out things for free. That's not, it really is not helping anybody to give out things for free. So like in our mobile medical clinics, for example, we have started charging 50 pesos, which is less than $1, for people to get seen, just so that they feel like they're taking charge of their own health care. So we don't deny anybody if they can't pay that, but we do ask for that so that they're helping contribute to it. Plus, it helps us bring in some money. So, like, if there's a person who is in need and needs surgery, and we don't have the American doctors there to do that surgery, then we can refer them to someone else and help them pay for the surgery. So that's what we use that money for. But, yeah. Yes, sir.
You said everything was gated. Is that for security or just the way of
Yeah,
life?
so it's just kind of like the way of life. Like every house has gates. It is kind of for security, but not because it's dangerous, but because people will steal stuff and go sell it. Like the other day, we were at church and the AC like went out, and we were all like kind of dying in there. It's a concrete building, and there was no AC, so they opened all the windows and turned on all the fans. And the next Sunday, the pastor told us the reason that we didn't have AC last week is because during the service somebody came in and like cut the cords on the outside of the building, and they'll take them and like strip the cords out and sell it just to make some quick cash. So it's not that anything's dangerous, but it's amazing how they will turn trash into a business there. Like, for example, you go and you'll sit, or you'll park your car somewhere, and somebody will come out with an old cardboard box and put it on your windshield, which is kind of nice because it does get very hot, but then they'll expect you to pay them even though you didn't ask for it. So yeah, it's not because of danger. It's mainly to keep people from stealing stuff to go sell.
What do you do in that situation? Like, so they put a cardboard box, with a sun visor.
You just pay them.
Really?
It's like I pay them either 25 or 50 pesos, which is like 50 cents to $1, and I'm like, go ahead, I kind of enjoy it because the car does get really hot, so I'm like, go ahead, put the cardboard box on it. I don't care.
I like when they wash your windshield.
Yeah, that I usually say no to, but sometimes I let them. No, they have Dominican pesos. So I think actually I have some in my pocketbook right now. Let me see. Let's see. All right, so this is my money. Oh, I have a lot more than I thought I did. So this is the money. So 200. This is about $4. This is about $10. This is about 20, and this is about 40. So I exchanged a lot before I left, just in case. But yeah.
No good up here.
No, but I'll use it. So. Yep.
Dominican Republic also has some fancy resorts, don't they?
They do. So I actually just had my first resort experience at the beginning of June. So our old executive directors came into town, and our Solid Rock gives us each $500 per year to use on in-country travel. So we used that to go to a resort for like 4 days, and it was nice. It was all inclusive, and it was only for all 4 nights, it was about $220 per person. And so,
Gone down there a couple of times on vacation.
Yeah, it was nice. I mean, I would go with a group of friends, I guess, but it's not my preferred kind of, vacation. But it was nice for what it was. Yeah.
What's the average income from the area you're in?
That's a really good question that I don't know the answer to.
Not much.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people are teachers. Teachers, I have heard, is one of the highest paid professions in the country, but I don't know what they get paid. There's a couple universities in my area, and I know that there's a lot of people who work at the universities. I would assume that pays pretty good, but I don't know numbers-wise exactly what it is. And there's a lot of farming too, so that's a huge industry where I'm at.
Are the expenses relative to cost here? Or is it
No, it's a lot less. So I don't have housing to pay for because I live at the guest house. However, the other two girls live off-site. They're the medical coordinator and the ministry support coordinator. And they pay, I think Sarah's apartment rent is around $250 a month, and it's a nice apartment. Kelsey's is a little bit bigger. Hers is a 3-bedroom, but she just took it from our directors that just left. It's very nice, and it's about $300 US a month. Yep. So.
Well, it's time is up.
Alrighty. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Katelyn. What a
Good job.
yeah, good job. You're really good at speaking.
Thank you.
I mean, it's wonderful. But let's just we'll say a prayer for Katelyn, and we don't need a microphone. All right, we give you thanks so mighty God for calling each one of us into your church. You call us out from this world to be a part of your mission. And we especially thank you for calling Katelyn out into another place where she finds fulfillment in what she does, and we pray that you'll continue to bless her with a sense of happiness and joy and peace as she goes about doing your will. We ask that you will continue to bless her as she continues to serve you and to love you and to love her neighbor in the Dominican Republic. We pray that we'll also be a blessing to her as we support her ministry. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.